So a really simple tip today referenced the golf swing, but in particular the backswing. So most golfers reach out for help when golf lessons. I'm sure you guys do if there's a problem with your ball flight or just a general problem with consistency, or maybe you feel like you've lost or you need to start gaining distance. That's generally why people reach out. And what we tend to see as golf professionals is there'll be a problem generally sort of in the downswing sort of sequence, which lends itself to a problem at the impact position. But a lot of these problems then are stemming much earlier. And one of the things that I've been seeing quite a lot of with people that have been reaching out for online lessons are over compensations, should we say, or over complicating the backswing position. And I can get it, I can understand it, because there's a lot of talk of using the ground and, you know, allowing legs to move, but I just feel I'd be sort of cautious with that, because there's a difference between allowing your lower body to move and just moving it for the sake of moving. So what I want to do is I want to just sort of propose the simplicity of what we're trying to do in the golf swing. What we are trying to do, so if I place the club across my shoulders, we would get ourselves set up and we basically just create a small amount of tilt. Now this amount of tilt will generally change depending which club you're hitting, because it helps us hit more up on the golf ball. But for all full swings, there'll be a general small amount of tilt. Now from here, I would say just rotate around the tilt. I think that would make the most amount of sense, reference the backswing position. What we don't necessarily want to be doing is sort of potentially losing that tilt. And that's what I think is sort of happening. I'm starting to see a lot of students where they're kind of coming out for lessons, and what's basically happening is instead of tilt, rotate around the tilt and rotate around the tilt and through, which in turn, if I held the golf club, would look like so, and then like so. What's tending to happen is they're kind of like this, and then they're doing this. So you can see the difference now. We've lost that tilt. This trail hip is up too high, my shoulder's up too high. It causes this casting motion. Instead of when I do it correctly, I pull my lead hip back, my shoulder drops down, hands can be guided through towards the target. But again, a lot of this is happening because the golfers are either consciously or just sort of got into a habit of excessively moving this leg. So when I place the club across my shoulders and I rotate quite centrally, you'll just notice if I place a line on the outside part of my trail thigh, see the way that I move progressively towards the target. So I'm still keeping the proportion of the weight on my trail side, even though I'm allowing my pelvis to move because of this rotation around this tilted angle. Now from here you can see the performance of this lead leg. It's coming forward inevitably, but what it's not doing is it's not sort of coming massively inward to the point where it would tilt my pelvis this position. I kind of feel from here most amateur golfers can't really recover from that, so it kind of promotes too much of this. So what I'm basically saying is, if you are somebody who feels you need to move the lower body more to trigger more rotation, I completely understand that, but I'd also just double check some of the basic power leaks first. So, you know, most of them are generally you're not applying enough width. The second one is that you're not releasing and, should we say, closing the club correctly through the back of the golf ball. You know, I wouldn't necessarily just kind of go, I want more distance, I'll kick this leg in, because like I say, this leg will only change depending on how much rotation we do. So if I rotate around and I go to like so, if I needed a bit more hip rotation, then you can see the difference. See, my lead leg needs to come in, but you can still see the way I'm not sort of collapsing. And that's the big one that you don't want to be doing. So do some practice swings just to make sure you're not making this mistake. Create a small amount of tilt, look in the mirror at home, rotate around that tilted motion, allow your lower body to do the thing that it needs to do, get the feeling of keeping 60-ish% of weight on that trail side, and you should find that, of course, this lead leg comes forward, but it's certainly not collapsing. That's a big, big killer. I'll see you guys again really soon.